Thank you for tuning into the L. Henderson Real News Show, issues, views, and solutions. The L. Henderson Real News Show is designed for you to listen, learn, and invest your knowledge and skills in your community. The show's format will be clear and direct. Each show will identify a problem. It will determine who benefits from the problem. The show will also determine who is the victim. And finally, we will show you how to create a prioritized action plan for success that can change your life, family status, and community in 30, 60, 90 days guaranteed. The L. Henderson Real News Show will identify, address, and teach you how to resolve problems in education, economics, politics, religion, community development, and local, state, national, and international affairs. So I want you to stay tuned for the L. Henderson's Real News Show. Hello viewers, this is Eldridge Henderson from the L. Henderson Real News Show. Part of being successful is dressing for success. This is why I want to tell you about Pennywise Cleaners, who's been serving the Southwest Jackson community for over 3 years at 4590 Raymond Road in Jackson, Mississippi. Pennywise delivers friendly service with a smile. Whether drop-off, drive-through, or delivery, Pennywise has got you covered. All work is done on-site using state-of-the-art equipment to keep you sharp and clean. A penny saved is a penny earned. At Pennywise Cleaners, located at 4590 Raymond Road, Jackson, Mississippi. For more information, the number is 601-372-0097. Pennywise Cleaners is a proud sponsor of the L. Henderson's Real News Show. Thank you, viewers, for tuning into the L. Henderson Real News Show. Again, we will be addressing educational opportunities in America. We will also look at some of the pitfalls, or what you might consider downfalls, that impact in education in the nation, and especially in 13 southern states. I want to tell you now, we have a guest that's going to give you solutions to these problems. We all need solutions. We don't need to do anything, we just tell you what the problems are. The good thing is that there's a solution to any problem, and all one has to do is have an action plan for success. And Brother David, I know you have some ideas on how parents, community leaders, and others can create action plans, especially starting with their children before birth up until 18. And we know once they pass 18, if they are not been trained properly, they are not going to be very successful in a productive manner. Would you agree?
Yes, sir. It's hard to disagree with that, sir.
Okay, now let's look at what is happening in America. I want you to understand that it is alarming that over 1.2 million black students are being expelled or suspended from public schools throughout the United States.
1.2 million?
1.2 million black students. I'm talking about males and females.
Wow.
That's a lot of folks.
Yes, sir.
But the emphasis is that most of this is happening in 13 southern states. About 55% of the students that are suspended or suspended in 13 southern states.
So you're saying that the overwhelming majority of these suspensions is taking place in less than 1/3 of the states of the United States of America?
That's correct.
Yes.
Now, we know there's a reason for that.
Yes, sir.
And we will determine what that reason is.
Right.
But there's also a solution to these suspensions and expulsions.
Right.
And we are going to have to address it. And I want my listeners to understand that if they have these problems in their families, I want them to understand clearly that they might have some suggestions, or they might be some of the causes for these problems.
Right.
Expulsions, suspensions, ladies and gentlemen, are getting worse every year in America, and especially in the 13 southern states. We're not going to address the states individually, but just to give you an example, we find that on an average, black students constitute about 24% of the students in America.
Okay.
But they are suspended 55%
Whoa.
and 50%
Whoa.
in these southern states. Now, I want you to understand, too, I'm not talking negative about the southern states, because the northern states, the western states, and others are just as bad. but they have fewer black students.
Yeah.
And every time you review the statistics, Brother
Right.
Mosley, you will find that the black student is likely 5 times to be suspended or expelled from the school than students of other races and nationalities. 5 times. And they constitute only 24% of the students in America.
That's an alarming set of statistics, Doc.
Now, who you think need to know how to come up with solutions for this?
Obviously, the one that's most affected, right? Those who care about those who are affected the most, those who care about those who are the left out, the least and most locked out, and also the most vulnerable is the ones who should actually do something about it. Because the children, obviously, shouldn't be expected to do it.
Well, now, should we start with the parents?
Well, you know, that's always one of the 2 easiest places to start is at the child and at the parents, and them are 2, unfortunately, that are typically the least equipped to solve the problem.
Now, suppose the parents say, I've done all I can. The child now is ready for kindergarten, and
Yeah.
the school should teach him.
Yeah.
I'm tired of him. I've had him 3, 4, 5 years.
Right. And then, you know, a lot of times people are poorly trained. They don't have the full support systems that they need in order to make the most competent decisions. Stressed out, lack of resources. It becomes very, very problematic, especially when you look at it from a communal basis as opposed to just an individual basis.
Okay, viewers, I want you to understand we are going to talk about what parents can do to cut down on these suspensions and expulsions in the public schools throughout the United States. And we are going to do something different today. We will start from how to train your child before birth.
That's right.
In order to do this, Brother Mosley, you have
Yes.
to start training those children before they get to the
That's
point
correct.
where they are what we consider real human beings
Right. Out of the womb.
out of the womb.
Right. Into the world. Right.
And before they get out of the womb,
That's right.
parents should do certain things.
That's correct, sir. That
What
is
do
exact-
you think some of those things should do?
Well,
When the child is in the womb, what are some of the things the parents ought to start doing?
Well, you know, it's always talking about reading and diet and exercise, but before we even get to that point, Professor Amos Wilson, who in my opinion is the most comprehensive solution-oriented scholar on the African-American experience, in his books, Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children and also the developmental psychology of the black child, speaks about, the first question is, why did you get pregnant in the first place?
Wait a minute. Now, you know there are 75% of our children being born out of wedlock,
Yes,
and
sir.
you're talking about why they get pregnant in the first place. You know why they got pregnant. They had interrelations with males and females.
Yes, they did, but do they know why they got pregnant? See, they knew why they wanted to have sex, but they don't know necessarily why they got pregnant. They might know how they got pregnant, but they don't necessarily know why they got pregnant.
Well,
and the answer to that question is going to dictate whether or not you're going to read to your child, whether or not you're going to exercise with your body, whether or not you're going to intake the right foods and stop and reject the wrong type of foods in terms of smoking, drinking, and also fried foods and snacks and chips, you know, drinking sodas. Are you going to reject those things? Because all of those things constitute what makes up the child.
Okay, so you're almost saying, Brother Mosley, that if a child is not trained properly before birth, if the parents are not happy, if they don't have a positive self-image and understand what they are doing and why they are here in this world, they are going to have what we call confused behavior.
Yes.
And start producing children before they can feed themselves. And you know, most of them don't even have anywhere to live other than with a relative.
Right.
And after they pass 18, if they are not productive career-wise, the parents really want them to get out of the house. But since the parents have usually, in about 50% of the cases, had the same experience,
Yes.
they allow those young males and females to remain in the household,
Right.
produce all those children, and they are ended up getting suspended and expelled 50 and 55% more than they should when they only considered 24% of school population.
It creates these multiple cycles of woe. And you have communities with these cycles of woe. And the woes are dealing with poverty. The woes are dealing with malnourishment. The woes are dealing with the high infant mortality rate. The woes are dealing with the low educational attainment. The woes are dealing with, as soon as I get my education, I want to move away from mommy. You know, the woes are dealing with all of the things that cause problems from a communal standpoint. We don't want to put this on any one individual because that's not going to produce solutions. We have to view this in a larger scheme of things.
Well, let's look at what really should happen then, Brother Mosley. After the child is born, do you think it's significant that the parents would constantly tell those children, from, I would say, the first 6 months,
Yes.
that son or daughter, I expect you to be a great positive individual. I expect you to finish kindergarten,
Yes.
high school.
Yes.
I expect you to get a
Yes.
career.
Right.
You are important. You are going to be the one in this family that will change the status
Right.
of the Mosley family,
You're
or
talking
whatever.
about positive programming.
Exactly right.
And the first person that has to have positive programming is the programmer.
That's right.
Not the one being programmed. The one that is programming must first have a positive program. They must positively program themselves in order to give that program to one that they want to actually infuse that information into.
So you are almost saying what I've been believing for years, that before you can give all these good positive examples of what should happen, the giver should have the same characteristics. They should have themselves together academically,
Yes.
health-wise. They should have at least some kind of skill or career training where they can be economically secure and not be able to beg the government, parents, or relatives, and others to support themselves and their children.
I mean, I'm a member of a group called Respect Our Black Dollars, right? And one of the problems that we're having is that as we go out into communities and express some of the things that can be done and should be done and have been done in other places to provide economic upliftment for groups of people and communities, the first thing that most of the people want to do is start talking about us as individuals, when in fact the conversation we're having is about us as a collective. And so that's what many people will do most of the time. They'll revert to the individual to take the stress off of themselves for doing something collectively. And that's an unfortunate reality that we just have to deal with. It goes right back to what you said. The first person that you have to invest in those positive things is yourself. And then that makes you more qualified in the eyes of other people for them to accept it.
Well, I'm going to tell you, viewers, you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you right now, that in order to get your children in a position where they are going to remain in school, there are certain things that parents must do before that child is conceived. Number one, he or she should think about producing after marriage only. You want to produce your children after you are married, and a lot of you all are so liberal now, you think it's all right to have 4 or 5 children out of wedlock, don't even know who the daddy is, and in many instances you can have a paternity test with those 3 or 4 kids and find that there are 2 or 3 different daddies involved.
Hold on,
Now,
wait a minute. Did you say a paternity test or a fraternity test?
Well, let's say fraternity
What's going on
test.
now?
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. And people don't like to hear the truth about this matter,
it's
listeners.
difficult. It's
They
difficult.
want to say it is all right for me to cause problems where I can get these kids in school and they are not going to finish because they don't have the economic means. They don't have the self-esteem status they're supposed to have. They don't know how to read. They don't know the phone numbers. They don't know their names. And they don't even understand that there is something called social skills because they were not trained at home. So now I know parents, you're going to listen and say, man is crazy. He is talking about things that he shouldn't talk about because I'm not guilty. I know someone is because we read the statistics all the time talking about the negative results of what kids do when they get to school, and most times it's because they were not trained properly at home. I want you to understand, parents, you must get those kids in an environment where they are going to be disciplined, starting at 3 years of age.
Yes.
You're going to teach them that they must have household responsibilities,
Yes.
starting at 4 years of age.
Yes.
Everyone should have chores
That's right.
during their lifetime from 5 years until they get out of the house around 18 or 20. And Brother David, I want you to know that if parents don't start doing this, setting up these curfews,
That's right.
have these study skills
Right.
already
Eating
developed,
at the table,
eating together,
Right.
talking about staying home on weekends,
Right.
getting your lesson 3
Right.
to 4 hours a night,
Right.
limiting television to 30 minutes per night. I'm going to tell you, I want you to give us some more of these solutions when we come back from the break. The Action Leadership Institute has office space for rent at North Jackson off I-55 South at 5435 Executive Place Office Park, located in a high-traffic count area. There are 4 offices available, 1 office space, 650 square feet, 3 offices, 150 square feet each. All are available today with first month free and deposit. Ideal spot for established businesses and startups such as law and tax offices, insurance companies, boutiques, counseling centers. Again, the address is 5435 Executive Place, Office Park, shown by appointments only. The number is 601-201-1957. Thanks for staying with us, viewers. Now we will talk about solutions to these suspension and expulsion problems that's happening every day in America, and especially in 13 southern states. I know Brother David here has some solutions about what is going on with this serious situation. And Brother David, I believe you think that there must be something wrong with some of these children that causing them not to know how to act when they get to school. Now, you have done the research.
Yes, sir.
And you know a little about special education. Will you think this has anything to do with these expulsions, or is it racism, white supremacy, people dominating others, miseducation, or a combination of these matters and what you're going to say about special education? So let's start with special education.
Yes, sir.
And listeners, I want you to, viewers, I want you to listen to Dr. Mosley here, and he will give you the information on special education so parents can address these issues and then move to the other solutions that we're going to talk. What can you say about that, brother?
Well, first, you know, we're going to be citing this information from the Southern Poverty Law Center. So people who are interested in following up can check with the Southern Poverty Law Center as well as the Children's Defense Fund in Mississippi. And and you can go to your internet to go look this information up. But there are 10 things every parent needs to know from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they deal with what to do with your child is in special ed. Many of you know special ed is not just for children that are so-called retarded or developmentally delayed. Sometimes children are blind. They might not have their hearing correct because it hasn't been checked, or they were born that way. Perhaps they might have a limb that might have a problem. But that's one version of special ed. Another version of special ed, which we're making reference to here, has to do with primarily behavior, where children who do not have the appropriate behavior control models or have a subjective viewpoint by way of the instructor have then put them into special ed because they were unwilling or unable to deal with them in the classroom. And so then they just give it a medical excuse with special ed. And then, of course, you have some parents who are opting into special ed because the child gets a crazy check, doc. And so because there's an economic incentive to label their child crazy, some parents have resorted to doing that, even though the medicine may render your child sterile, and once the child gets hooked on those drugs, it's hard for them to get off. But there's some things you should know, that the schools must provide children in special ed with an individualized education program, or an IEP, which is specially designed to meet the needs of that child. Schools cannot provide a one-size-fits-all class for every student in special ed. In other words, they have to tailor the information around your child's so-called disabilities. Another one of these things is children in special ed cannot be suspended for more than 10 days in a school year for any misbehavior or a pattern of misbehavior that is caused by the child's disability. These are just 2 things on the list of 10 from the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Okay, Brother Mosley, you were saying then that some kids, children, I would say, are in special education because they have the ability to do well academically, but they just have not been given the social skills, especially starting at the early age.
Right.
They have not been given the medical analysis they need because of lack of funds for the parents.
Right.
They have hearing problems, vision problems, mental problems. Social skill problems, I would say lack of social skill. And all of this, in my opinion, can lead to some very serious problems when they get around middle school and especially in high school.
It cascades into problems, and some of it has to do with, discipline and behavior. Most of it is discipline and behavior. And, and I know people talk bad about paddling, but a lot of black parents whipped black children to stop them from being killed by white people.
Well, David, I'm going to tell you right now, they need to do it today.
Yeah,
I'm not worried being
because
killed.
The killing haven't stopped.
Right, I don't believe.
The killing has not stopped.
Yeah, I don't believe that one should continue to discipline a child just because they might be killed by someone.
Yes.
What they should consider, though,
Right.
is to train the child,
Right.
teach the child good behavior,
Right.
but at the same time, teach that child that he must use self-defense methods when he knows he is not guilty of violating the law.
But oftentimes the children don't have that type of behavior control or that type of knowledge, and those things develop over time. We're talking about from elementary. You got children being kicked out of elementary. You have kindergartners being handcuffed. I mean, now this is lunacy. This only makes sense in a place where oppression is normalized. And so we have to deal with white supremacy. We have to deal with oppression because that's what Paulo Freire speaks of with pedagogy of the oppressed. That cycle that recreates and replicates itself because they don't have a liberation education.
Okay, Brother Mosley, you're saying then that this might be a planned deal
Ain't no
where
doubt about
the white supremacists,
Yes.
the people dominators,
Yes.
are going to put some negatives on the young people starting in kindergarten.
No, starting in the mother's womb.
Come on here. You're going to say
if
they're
the mama got it,
brainwashed.
if the mama got self-hate in her, it's going to be difficult not to pass that on to the child. If the mother has inferiority complexes in her, it's going to be difficult for her not to pass that on to the child. If you believe that it is all right and sane to worship your oppressor and then send your children out to your opponents, to your enemies, and your competition to go get jobs.
Brother David.
If you think that that makes sense, then you already out of your mind.
Well, you might be right. But listen, this Brother David now is accusing the poor woman who got these kids trained what I call in a manner where they are nothing but incorrigible, prison-prone individuals. But he didn't mention 50% of this deal where he has not said not one word about that old no-good father of these children that are running around here in Mississippi, the nation, and the world, producing 3 and 4 kids, not supporting anyone. He is still living at home with his mother, and in many cases, that joker just got out of prison. He's headed back in 6 months, and he's going to produce 2 or 3 children.
I mean, Doc,
am I too strong on you,
Doc,
brother?
Once again, you're speaking of those cycles of woe, and those cycles of woe are systemic. It's not, once you get to the point where more than 50% of the marriages are failing, that's a systemic problem. When you have a 50% kick-out rate or push-out rate in school, that's a systemic problem. When the numbers you mentioned, 24% of black children in school and 50-something% is getting kicked out and expelled and put in special programs, that's a systemic problem. However, accepting and understanding that's a systemic problem is not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is to have more discipline and better behavior and more solidly economic distribution within a community. That's the solutions to the problem. But you have to acknowledge what the true problem is in order to properly treat the problem with the appropriate solutions.
Okay.
So I don't want to negate the influence of oppression and white supremacy. At the same time, that isn't you cannot use that as a sufficient crutch to solve your problems. You say that is the problem, then you stop blaming each other for the problem, and then that allows you to work together to solve the problem. But if you do not identify that as the problem, you blame yourself and your own children for stuff that is actually systemic.
Okay, Brother David, I can agree with that.
Yes, sir.
We know there's enough problems around to share with all of us, but one of the most serious problem-based communities I know of that's not doing its job is the so-called black church.
That's true.
They have over 15.7 million church members in some of these international black organizations.
Yes.
With 15.7 million, they could save or assign to their members $1 a month.
Yes.
And end up with enough money to solve any problem they want to solve.
Yes.
Have shopping centers,
Yes.
hotels,
Yes.
conference centers.
Yes.
They can have whole towns if they would like.
Yes.
They can have swimming pool, one-stop career centers where all the kids that dropped out of school.
Doc, hold on. Don't give away your seminar, Doc. Don't give away your seminar.
Don't do that, sir.
No, because they can't deal with these solutions. See, most people want to just point the finger and say it's white supremacy's fault. Well, even if it is white supremacy's fault, that ain't gonna solve the problem, right? You have to do something about it in order for it to solve.
Well, that's right. Well, see, let me tell you what I know about white supremacy.
Yeah, it ain't gonna stop.
That's not going to stop. And the thing about it that's very, very current is that white supremacists just enjoy seeing their domineering tactic work.
Work over and over
When
again.
they get you to the point where you're broken,
Right.
they expect you to pray,
Beg.
demonstrate,
Yes.
beg, and go and ask them for something.
That's right.
And that's when they put the screws on you even tighter.
Yes.
And I've been telling you all for years,
Yes.
when you get to this point, you don't consider yourself a full American.
That's right.
You consider yourself less than a full
That's right.
citizen.
That's right.
And you don't care nothing about changing your status quo.
That's right.
All you want to do is survive.
That's right.
And when you get to this point, David, your situation then is getting worse and worse. And I don't care how much praying you do, you are only going to have chaos in your life, in your children's life, and then bringing all the burden to your parents, going to have problems in their lives until they die.
You know, they say that a starving or hungry dog will take a bone for a steak, and a drowning man will reach for a sword. Both of those represent states of desperation.
Brother David, this information has been alarming. It is sort of serious, but we must go and do more and address solutions when we return. So viewers, we're going to continue filming, and I want you to stay tuned, and we will tell you how to solve these problems starting at home in 30, 60, or 90 days, guaranteed.
This is a very serious issue. As you know, Mississippi ranks 50th or below 45 in almost every indicator of negativity in terms of impoverishment, in terms of obesity, in terms of education. And so a lot of times the children will get blamed for stuff that's much larger than them.
The churches, as I have seen for the last 30 years, are one of the serious hindrance in the lives of young people as far as education.
Can I comment on that, Doc?
Come on, come on. But if I come in on it any further, you'll probably get up and leave.
The dope boy got a better economic agenda than the pastor, the politician, or the professor. And as long as that's true, the community gonna stay in woe. I want to talk a little bit later about the 444 plan. It's the 444 plan for children who are in grades 11 and 12, about to leave high school and go into college.
Thank you for tuning into the L. Henderson Real News Show, Issues, Views, and Solutions. The L. Henderson Real News Show is designed for you to listen, learn, and invest your knowledge and skills in your community. The show's format will be clear and direct. Each show will identify a problem. It will determine who benefits from the problem. The show will also determine who is the victim. And finally, we will show you how to create a prioritized action plan for success that can change your life, family status, and community in 30, 60, 90 days guaranteed. The L. Henderson Real News Show will identify, address, and teach you how to resolve problems in education, economics, politics, religion, community development, and local, state, national, and international affairs. So I want you to stay tuned for the L. Henderson's Real News Show. Hello, viewers. This is Eldridge Henderson from the L. Henderson Real News Show. Part of being successful is dressing for success. This is why I want to tell you about Pennywise Cleaners, who's been serving the Southwest Jackson community for over 3 years at 4590 Raymond Road in Jackson, Mississippi. Pennywise delivers friendly service with a smile, whether drop-off, drive-through, or delivery. Pennywise has got you covered. All work is done on-site using state-of-the-art equipment to keep you sharp and clean. A penny saved is a penny earned. At Pennywise Cleaners, located at 4590 Raymond Road, Jackson, Mississippi. For more information, the number is 601-372-0097. Pennywise Cleaners is a proud sponsor of the L. Henderson's Real News Show.